I'm joined today by a true football legend. Jim McMahon is one of the most memorable quarterbacks in NFL history, not just for what he won, but how he showed up. He's best known as the starting quarterback of the legendary 1985 Chicago Bears, a team that went 15-1 and dominated its way to the Super Bowl 20 victory. But Jim's legacy goes far beyond wins and trophies. He brought swagger, toughness, and disruption to a league built on conformity. By challenging authority, playing through pain, and redefining what leadership could look like at the quarterback position. Today, we're going beyond the highlights to explore the mindset, rebellion, and authenticity that made Jim McMahon a cultural icon of the 1980s NFL. Jim, it's an honor. Welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here, Dave. Good talking with you again.
Yeah, good to see you again. And, as I was saying, I'm really glad we made time to do this. When we were hanging out, it was only a few weeks ago, actually, and we were swapping stories and going back over some of those career moments and war stories. We both said we got to do this properly in long form and actually have some fun with it. So that's what we're doing today. But it got me thinking just how legendary that era of the NFL really was, and about how that Bears team didn't just win games, it completely captured people's attention, right? We were talking about that. There was a feeling around it, a personality, a presence that still gets talked about today, right? Decades later. So yeah. I'm looking forward to getting your thoughts on that. But where do we begin? That was my question. Where do we begin with Jim McMahon, the career you've had? And I was telling you that when I was a kid growing up, I remember you being the original disruptor, a rebel with a larger than life presence, but I really wanted to understand where that came from. So here's the question. What was the young Jim McMahon like growing up? Like before football became a thing, where did you grow up? What was your life like as a young Jim McMahon?
Well, I was actually born back east, Jersey City, New Jersey, but I left there. I believe I was two years old. I grew up in San Jose, California, where I learned how to play sports. My dad was my coach all through until I got to high school. And he taught me and my brothers, just basic fundamentals, which is really lacking these days, because he always said, if you're fundamentally sound, you could play any sport. And then if you have any talent, of course, you can take it as far as you want. But that was the key for me. And I was a pretty rebellious little kid. I was always in trouble. Actually had a police record when I was 12. Was not on the right path for sure. My dad was my coach, like I said, for this little league team I was on, and we had won the league the year before. We were going to win again, and he kicked me off his own team because he caught me smoking cigarettes. And I was a little bit of a hoodlum, but once he did that, he kicked me off the team. I wasn't able to play my favorite sport, which was baseball at the time. It still is baseball was my favorite sport, but I kind of straightened up after that and went, hell, if I can't play sports, then what am I going to do? I'm going to end up in, Folsom or somewhere. And so I turned it around and started doing things right, going to class and, getting my grades, and things started turning around for me.
So kicked off your team when you were 12 by your dad. That's crazy. That's wild to think about.
It was not fun. But, I learned a lesson. I started doing the right thing, getting my schoolwork done. Because even if I got a B, I couldn't play. So I had to always, keep up with my schoolwork. And, they taught me right. I mean, I learned from it and started becoming a better person. And I was able to play the sports that I loved.
Yeah, that's great. So when did you realize that football could actually be your path, not just something you were good at,
Well, again, like I said, baseball was my first love. That's what I wanted to do. And the reason I chose Brigham Young for college was they were one of the two schools that said I could play both baseball and football, and that was big for me. I wanted to, like I said, play baseball, and so the other school happened to be Nevada, Las Vegas, and that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to have like a normal college life, like most people do. Which was not happening at BYU for sure. It was different atmosphere, very religious Mormon community. And, I grew up in California with the brothers and the Mexicans, and I grew up Catholic. So it was a totally different dynamic up there. But the sports were great. I always got along great with my teammates, my coaches. I had quite a few run-ins with the administration, but other than that, it was a tough 5 years, but I learned a lot of football, learned a lot of about life. And I did get to play baseball my freshman year. I played I played in the outfield, and throwing the ball from the outfield in the pocket is two totally different things.
Mm.
And I was starting to have some arm problems. And since football was my scholarship, I'd play a game of a doubleheader and then have to run down this big hill, change uniforms, and go to football practice for 3 hours. And so I only did that probably 6 times. And I said, I got to make a decision. And since football was my scholarship, that's what I ended up doing.
So looking back, it was probably good for you. Well, obviously, it was good for you to go to BYU. I can't imagine a teenage Jim McMahon in Vegas. You know,
Either
like
could my dad. That's why I said I'm not going to Vegas.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, here's a question: like, how would your college teammates at BYU describe you? You know, not the same. I mean, you put up video game numbers, like that's a fact, right? You were, you know, you played the position a lot different than probably what they were used to. So, you, like I said, not the stats, but the guy in the locker room. How would they describe you? Do you think?
Well, most of the guys that I've heard mention me, they said I was a good teammate.
Mm.
I played hard. I pumped people up that needed it. I got in people's ass when they needed it, and that's how I've always been. As a position of quarterback, you're supposed to be a leader. And if they don't respect you, if they don't believe that you know what you're doing, they can make life miserable for you, especially the O line.
Yeah.
And so they've got to really believe in you and believe in what you're saying. And they always knew that I knew what I was doing. Knowledge is confidence. And if you know what you're doing, you can play without fear. You can play without, apprehension. You just let it rip. And that's the way I always did it.
Yeah, it's obvious. You stuck to your guns that way throughout your career, as well. I'll ask you about. But okay, so moving along, take us to draft day. You know, you were drafted first round, your first days in the NFL. What was the biggest adjustment? You know, stepping into the league. What surprised you the most about the culture of the NFL? Before we get to the press conference, the infamous press conference, I did want to ask you about draft day and the biggest surprise maybe when you first stepped in there.
Well, and that back then, no, we weren't back in New York, and we were all just at home. I was sitting there watching the draft with my family and friends, and I was all indications were I was going to go to Baltimore Colts. They were picking fourth that year, and I'd been back to Baltimore a couple of times. I'd had dinner and lunch with Johnny Unitas in his restaurant. He was telling me all about the city. I was going to love the city, and I had forgotten. I told my agent I didn't really want to be in Baltimore. And so when draft day came, I'm sitting there, and I saw Pete Rozelle get up and said, "All right, with the fourth pick, the Baltimore Colts select quarterback." So I'm thinking it's going to be me. And they said, "Art Schleister, Ohio State." And I was like, "Whoa, what happened?" And my phone rang right away. It was my agent. He said, "What do you think?" I said, "What happened?" He goes, "Well, you told me you didn't want to be there. So I told him not to draft you." I told him that they'd never sign you anyway, so don't draft him. And so I had no idea who was picking next. No idea at all. And it ended up being the Bears. And then I get a call from the Bears. "Hey, we're going to draft you. Can you come to Chicago?" I said, "Sure." So I get on a plane that afternoon, uh, fly for 3 hours. I get there. I got they take a limo to the Hallis Hall, our facility, and they had some beers in the limo, right? So I'm having a few. It wasn't like I was 18 years old. I was 22 years old. Um, so I had a few of the. It was on a 6-pack string, those plastic string things. And so I wasn't even thinking about the press like a dumbass. I just I get out of the limo, and there was two more beers left in the strand, so I grabbed them with me. I'm just standing there with one in my hand and two in my other hand, and that press just went whoo, and that was my introduction to Chicago. And Mike Ditka happened to be walking into the building at the time, and he looked at me and he said, "So you're my first round pick, huh?" And I said, "Well, I guess so." And so now I've got to go in and meet with George Hallis. And so I'm sitting outside of George's office for like an hour, doing nothing, staring at the secretary. And I got friends on the team, Kenny Marjoram, Keith Van Horn. They were in town, wanted to take me out to celebrate, and so I wanted to get out of there. And I had finally say, "Hey, what am I doing here?" And the secretary says, "Well, Mr. Hallis would like to speak with you." I said, "Well, that's cool. When is that going to happen? I got things to do." And she goes, "Well, he's taking a nap right now." And I go, "You got to be kidding me!" I said, "Go wake him up. I'm not going to sit here until he finishes his nap." So she went and woke him up. So now I'm walking into the Hallis's office, and he's sitting at his desk. And I hadn't even sat down yet. I'm just walking into the office. And he says, "Well, you're too short. You got a bad arm, a bad knee. You don't see very well." He goes, "Maybe you should go to Canada." That was his first words to me. And I just looked at him. I said, "Well, why'd you draft me, old man? I mean, who's in your scouting department?" And he already had a contract for me. I just been drafted 4 hours prior to this, and I just saw one number of the contract. And I said, "I'm not." I rolled it up, said, "I'm not signing this." I threw it at him. I got up and walked out. And at that time, if you remember, the USFL was coming in. They were going to play that season, or the spring of that season. And so I knew I had a meeting with George Allen, the old Redskin coach, who was going to be coaching the Chicago Blitz, I believe they were called, and had a meeting with him 3 days after the Hallis meeting. And so I go meet with George Allen, and he offers me a hell of a deal. And I said, "George, put this in writing. I will play for you. But you got to do it within the next 10 days or 2 weeks, whatever it was, because they told the rookies that year that if you didn't sign by July 15th, that you were not eligible for the draft, or eligible to play that season," which was all. I knew right then that the NFL was not telling the truth. And so George Allen never came back with that contract in writing. And so I had to go back to see George Hallis, and he just unfolded the contract that I'd rolled up at him, and I had to sign that wrinkled ass piece of paper. So I had to play for like 100,000, 150, 190 my first 3 years. And the first year was there, we had a strike. So I took home. I made like 50 grand. I took home like 35 after taxes. So I could have worked at McDonald's and not gotten the hell beat out of me. But that was my intro to the NFL.
That is wild. Yeah, I was going to ask, when did you realize that the league saw that moment, at the beer press conference a lot different? Like I was going to ask if it was intentional or you were just being yourself and not overthinking it. I think, like you said, you just walked in with the beer. You didn't really think much about it.
Yeah, I didn't really care. I mean, it was, like I said, it wasn't like I was underage, or, I don't know what the big deal was, but they made us think about it for quite a while.
Yeah, they really did. And I think maybe that was the start of your rebellious reputation. Possibly it was like, well, welcome to the league. Um,
I wasn't going to kiss her ass right out of the gate. I mean,
yeah, that's absolutely clear. So early on, did you feel the pressure to change like who you were to fit the NFL quarterback mold? Because I think at the time, if you'll remember, like it was a very polished, the quarterback position was, everybody fit in a certain type of box. What were you willing to adjust, and what would you never negotiate? I guess it was your authenticity and who you were.
yeah, I mean, I used to tell my guys all the time, it doesn't really matter what you do or say during the week. I said, it matters what happens on Sundays or Monday nights or Thursday, whenever you play. But football is boring as hell unless you're playing a game. I mean, practices suck. I mean, meetings, you got to sit in meetings for hours on end. Then you got to go out and do these walkthroughs. Then you got to deal with the press. Then you got to deal with, if you got an injury, which I had pretty much every week, you got to deal with rehab. And so, game day was the only fun time. And so I try to, let my guys know, hey, you can have a good time during practice and during meetings. And as long as you're getting what you're supposed to get. Like I said, knowledge is confidence. So if you understand what you're doing, uh, you can play freely and have fun. And that's what I did. I try to make guys laugh and enjoy the experience that we're having, and enjoy the winning, because it doesn't come very often. I mean, it takes a lot of hard work to win in that league.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of lessons in that for sure. And the other thing that dawned on me is, with that first meeting where they tell you you're too short, you got a bum knee, you can't throw. That must have been motivating? Like that must have motivated you to say, "I'll show you."
Yeah, I mean, it pissed me off for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
that's why I said, "Why'd you draft me, old man?" I mean, uh, yeah, I wasn't going to take any stuff off of those people. I mean,
yeah,
I'm here to win games and play. And if you don't like that, trade me, which they
yeah,
eventually did.
yeah. You referenced Mike Ditka there. He spotted you, walking in the building with the beer. But again, Mike Ditka, another legendary coach. What was the relationship like with Mike Ditka, and what do you remember about him personally and professionally?
I think the best thing that he did for us was when his first year was my first year as well, and we had guys, 6, 7 year veterans just kind of hanging around collecting checks, not really doing much. And he got rid of those guys, and they were starters. And he kept the guys that he wanted, because we worked. I mean, we outworked people. They think we just showed up Sunday. Sundays were kind of a break for us because we everything we did at practice was live. We had pads on every day, uh, playing against that defense that we had every day. There was never any buddy buddy period. I mean, it was all out war. And so Sundays we couldn't wait for the game day because we felt it was like a break. And yeah, it was. I think our relationship was good early. I think he wanted me to play because the other guys we had was Bob Avellini and Vince Evans, the two guys that were in front of me when I first got there. And so I think he wanted me to play, and I wanted to play. I wanted to play early. I felt I was good enough and should have been playing. Uh, and then we have that strike the first year, so that we got 9 games in. But then it started when we started having success is when things started getting getting a little rough between us because he liked to be in charge. He wanted to be, the guy that called the right, the play that scored or this and that. And I said, look, I was taught as a quarterback all through college. Look, if you can see something on the defense that you can exploit, go ahead and do it. I had that kind of freedom. And so I wasn't changing every play that he sent in to a pass. I changed a lot of them to the runs too. But I just wanted the freedom to be able to, if I did see something like a blitzes are so easy to pick up. I mean, if you know if you understand football at all, uh, and the quarterback has only got to worry about one guy that can't be blocked because they can always send one more than you can block. And if you know who that guy is, if everybody else is this is all in theory, right? There, you got it's called getting a hat on a hat. You got somebody to block somebody, and they don't always block them, but I mean they're accounted for. And the quarterback's only accounted for the one guy that they can't block. And if you know who that guy is, and if he's 8, 10 yards deep, you don't even worry about him. Ball's going to be gone. But if he's messing around up around the line of scrimmage inside of 5 yards, that should be a red flag. And that should, indicate, hey, guys, look where this guy is. And you change the play and hopefully burn their ass. But to me, it was never that difficult to figure out because like I said, I got great coaching in college and I understood. I had a good feel for what they were trying to do to me, and I never really worried about that.
Yeah, I was wondering about this. With so many personalities around that team, on that team, like how did leadership actually work? Did you consider yourself a leader of the team, or how did that? Just thoughts on leadership around that, historic era of the Chicago Bears.
Well, the guys that knew that I was a leader was when they got in the huddle.
Mhm.
That was my huddle. I didn't care, what the play was called, or I'd say, look, this is what we're going to do, and they all backed me every time because they knew I knew what I was doing. Like I said, knowledge. If you have the knowledge, you have the confidence, and they can see that because I've seen other QBs get in a huddle with eyes this big and a very timid voice and kind of scared to death, and nobody's going to follow you like that. I mean, you might as well just take your butt to the sideline because you're going to get killed out there. But especially when I changed plays, they understood why I was doing it, and so they always had my back.
Yeah, ultimate confidence. Again, a lot of lessons in that. Now, when you remember or think back to that 1985 season, winning Super Bowl 20, what's the moment that comes back first when you think about it? Like maybe not the highlight everyone remembers, but like what comes back to you first? What do you remember most about that game?
Getting out of there alive. Uh, I was getting I was getting death threats, towards the end of the week. I had people, women picketing our hotel. Some idiot reporter went on TV and said that I had called all the women of New Orleans sluts and that the men
Wow.
were stupid. And, where he got it, who knows? I mean, he actually made it up because he said he'd heard that on a radio show that I supposedly had done at 6 o'clock in the morning. And so, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday were great. Had we did what we're supposed to do, had our press conferences, and we got out. We didn't have any curfew, so we probably saw the sun come up those 3 days. And then Thursday morning is when I got woken up by an irate fan screaming and yelling how they're going to kill me for saying what I said. I'm like, what? Hang up. I got another phone call. So I ended up getting dressed, go down to breakfast, and our general manager walked up to me when I was in the food line. He says, "Oh, you really did it this time." And then he walked away, and I'm like, "Did what?" I mean, I still don't know what the hell's going on. And finally, Dickie came up to me and he said, "Did you really say that?" And I said, "Mike," I said, "I got woken up this morning by some fans." I said, "Jerry's pissed off. What did I say?" And he goes, "Were you on a radio show this morning at 6 a.m. and called all the women sluts?" And I said, "Are you out of your mind?" I said, "We didn't get home till 5:30." I said, "No, I wasn't up at 6." I said, "I certainly wouldn't have said that, especially to a reporter, even if I thought about it, thought it, thought it was like that." But no, I had no idea, what happened. And so, everybody in New Orleans wanted to believe it. All the people of New Orleans wanted to believe it. The press wanted to believe it. And so, I just said, "Look, I'm tired of talking to you people. I did what I had to do for 3 days now, and now you come at me with this." And so, yeah, it was not fun. The guys that practiced didn't want to stand by me because they thought I was going to get shot. We were practicing at the old Saints facility, and there was an apartment complex that overlooked the field. And so the guys were scared to death that I was going to get popped. So I had a different jersey on, and then there was a whole thing about in the NFC Championship game, I took a helmet in a bone in my ass, and my cheeks swelled up so big I was surprised I was even able to play that game. But so all the questions were about that, how you doing with that, and how's your ass, this and that. So I got in trouble for mooning the helicopter that buzzed our field one day. We're out there, we had shorts and helmets on, and we happened to be doing calisthenics, and I'd gotten tired of all the questions about my ass, so I just dropped trow and showed them the big black cheek that I had, and I didn't get any more questions about that after that.
Jim, those are the two stories I was not expecting. Was not expecting those two stories, but wild when you think about it. That is just crazy, dude.
Yeah, the game, I don't remember much of the game. Like I said, as soon as when the gun went off for the end of the game, I thought it was a gunshot. I thought I was going to get shot. So I ran into the tunnel. I was changed and out of there before a lot of guys had even come in from the field.
Damn. Wow. Again, the stories that Jim McMahon has are legendary. I did want to talk a little bit about your identity because your friction and clashes with authority, they became part of your story. They really did. And I think that's why, at a young age for me, I think I told you this, I really resonated with you. I think people like that rebellious, larger than life personality. And looking back, were those moments about ego, principle, protecting the team, or something else? Like, how do you view that? Your identity, your clashes with authority, and how that became part of your story and your legacy.
Well, they say I rebelled against authority, and I questioned authority.
Mm.
There's a difference between asking why do I have to do it like this? Why can't I do it this way? Why are you right and I'm wrong? You know, uh, I understood the position of quarterback. Mike Ditka was a tight end. He's a hell of a tight end. I wish I would have got to play with the guy because had he ever been in my huddle, he would have understood me and known that hey, he actually does know what he's doing. And yeah, I just question a lot, and I guess that upsets some people. But yeah, I wasn't the typical cookie cutter QB, I guess, and that took him by surprise, or I don't know what it took him by, but I
Yeah.
wasn't going to change the way like I said, I like to have a good time. I like to have fun. I want to win games. And if what I'm doing is making you mad because we're winning, then it's not my problem.
Yeah. What do you think, your coaches and the media got wrong about you early on? Like, I mean, I think I'm hearing that, you just, yeah, worked everybody, you stuck to your guns about what you believed in. Obviously you were authentic to your values, but do you think there was something that they got wrong about you early on?
I guess my challenging of authority. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what they all said. Oh, he doesn't listen. He doesn't do this. No, well, I'm not going to listen to somebody that I'm smarter than. And at my position, there wasn't not one person that was telling me what to do that was smarter than I was. So
Mhm.
this is how I'm going to do it. If you don't like it, I can play somewhere else.
Do you think the league ever changed how it viewed players like you over the years?
I have no idea. I
Yeah.
quit following it up 30 years ago when I got out. So
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan. I didn't never like watching, even when I was playing. And if I wasn't playing, then I wasn't too excited about a game.
Have you heard like, and I think I was asking you about this when we were hanging out a few weeks ago, but like a lot of comparisons to, some of these up and coming quarterbacks like Jackson Dart, with the Giants, a lot of people compare him to you. He's got kind of that like, a larger than life personality. I see the comparisons. Have you thought about that? Have you watched him play? Do you think about that at all?
No, I haven't seen him play. I just recently found out he went to my high school in Utah.
Yeah.
the high school that I played at in Utah my last 2 years. Yeah, I had no idea he was even from there. So
Yeah, crazy. I can see it though. Like again, it's crazy how 30 years later, your identity, your persona, being a world champion, obviously, like how people compare others to you even decades later. I mean, that's got to make you feel okay about what you did in the league that many years ago.
yeah, at least people still remember. That's kind of cool.
It is cool. Yeah.
It's been a long time since I put on a helmet, but yeah, I
Hell
still
yeah.
get everywhere I go. I talk to people about it, and I always have some interesting stories that they have about me and stuff like that. But it's fun. I have a good time with it.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you this question. I was really thinking of a way to ask this next question. Your swagger, and that's what I remember was your swagger, your larger than life persona. As I said, I had a Jim McMahon jersey. It was my only jersey when I was a kid because I really looked up to somebody like you. I thought it was really cool how you carried yourself. Was your swagger a weapon? Was it a shield? Or was it just brutal honesty in a polished league? Like, how would you describe it? Like where did that swagger come from?
Uh, like I said, confidence in myself, my abilities, confidence in my teammates. I mean, I knew we were good. I mean, hell, I knew we were good at the end of 1983. We started getting pretty damn good. And then, of course, 84, we lost the NFC Championship game. Won it all in 85 and 86. We were 14-2. It wasn't like we went away. We had the best record in football, I think, 5 years in a row, and
Yeah.
had home field advantage for those years. And it was unfortunate that we just laid an egg in the playoffs. But you work hard all year to get that advantage, and then you piss it away. It was pretty very disappointed. That was the worst part about leaving Chicago with only one Super Bowl. We should have had two to three at least.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'm just transitioning to, before we talk about your current projects, what you're doing now and whatnot, like when you zoom out from football, like what did the game really teach you about, leadership? Like what carries over directly into life and business that you took from football and sports in general, I guess?
Well, football is great. It's just great. Teaches you how to be a man. I mean, it teaches you to be accountable. It teaches you how to get along with people. I mean, because you got 50 guys that are from all different walks of life and ethnicity and this and that, and you got to be able to come together as one unit. And it's hard to do, but football teaches you great lessons for life, and you make great friends. I mean, I got to play with 7 different teams, and so I played with a lot of great football players, all from all over the country. And that's the thing you miss, just kind of hanging out with your buddies. Just the locker room stuff was always fun. Just pranks and the different stories you hear. I mean, it's hilarious. These are a lot of funny men out there.
Yeah.
It's too bad that most people don't get to see that side of guys,
Yeah.
which they did in Chicago, because pretty much every guy on our team had a radio show or a TV show, or we're doing ads, or we're doing the shuffle, or we're doing, people saw us without our helmets. They saw us out in public, and we became humanized, I guess. I mean, because they put you on a pedestal, most of these people that think, and this was just a job for us. It's just,
Yeah.
and it was a great job because it was like you're with your buddies all the time, and you're playing a game, which it's a violent game, but it's still a game, and that's your job. I mean,
Mhm.
how much better can it get?
Yeah. Uh, People still reference the shuffle. They still talk about the shuffle.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
That
mean,
was,
it's the way it worked out. I mean, it was good because we ended up winning. But had we not, we look like a bunch of idiots forever. But since it worked out, yeah, that it keeps coming up.
keeps coming up. And you referenced it. You were part of a team that it didn't just win; it dominated. So I've always wanted to ask you this question: like, what separates teams that win occasionally from teams that become legendary? Like, how much of it comes down to culture versus talent?
Well, everybody's got talent. Every team out there has got talent. It's just you know, it's got to be culture. It's got to be you guys fighting for each other. Kind of a family thing. Uh, yeah, you get very close with these guys that you spend so much time with, and you have to go through these battles with. It's not war. You're not getting shot at, but it's basically the same thing. I've got a lot of military buddies. It's the same kind of camaraderie. Within their core group. and that's what gets you through the hard times.
Yeah. Yeah. And, as a leader, which you were, how do you think about earning trust? And again, these are life lessons I'm asking, especially with, strong personalities and egos around you. Like, what mistakes do you see leaders making most often today? And you can apply that to business, entrepreneurship, whatever you're involved in, as a true leader and somebody who led a team to a championship, like, what mistakes do you see leaders making today?
Probably not taking accountability for their screw ups. Uh, you know, every time we lost, it was usually my fault. I mean, I said, hey, I screwed up here. We should have won this game. You don't blame other people for things that you had a chance to correct or get done. And so, yeah, just accountability. Just if you make a mistake, you make a mistake. Everybody does that. But if you make a mistake and then you blame somebody else for it, that's nobody's going to follow you around.
No. And just a final question just to wrap this up before we talk about what you're doing now. When people talk about legacy, they often focus on trophies or moments. What does legacy mean to you now at this stage in your life? Like, what part of your story do you hope lasts the longest when people think about Jim McMahon?
That he played hard. He gave it everything he had, and that's all you can ask of somebody. I played hurt so many times. I missed a lot of games, but I played in a lot of games I probably shouldn't have played in because I was, my arm, especially in 1986, I dislocated my throwing shoulder in the first game of the year, and I kept trying to play. I think I played 6 games that year, won them all. How I don't know because I had no labrum in my shoulder at all. The front part of my shoulder was gone. So every time I moved my arm come out of the socket, and it's very very painful. Had anybody that's had it done, but mine was doing it 100 times a day, and I kept telling our team doctor, "Hey, there's something wrong with my damn arm," and he'd give the shake it around and this and that, and I did MRIs, they did everything, they said, "Oh no, there's nothing wrong with it," and so finally, after that infamous Charlie Martin slamming me on my head play at the end of our Green Bay game. We had a bye week, and I went out to L.A. to see Frank Jobe, the renowned shoulder and elbow guy from the Dodgers. And he, within 5 minutes, he said, "Your arm's coming out of the socket." And I said, "I've been telling these idiots that for the last 10 weeks." And he says, "You need surgery right away." And he goes, "It's probably going to take you 2 years to come back to play after the surgery." And so our team doctor actually flew out to watch the surgery. And Frank had cut me from the top of my shoulder down to my armpit. And when he opened me up, our team doctor said, "Wow, he wasn't lying." Frank told me this after I woke up from surgery, and I said, "Why would I be lying? I've been trying to play." I said, "I've done everything. I've taken the shots, the pills," and I said, "You guys don't believe there's anything wrong. Why would you question me?" Because 2 years prior to that, I was playing with my half my kidney got torn off in the game, and I was still playing. And I said, "Why would you question my desire to play or not? I mean, this is why I'm here. I want to win." And so that year was terrible. Ended up having the surgery. I ended up coming back. I played in 10 months after the surgery, even though he told me to take 2 years. I went through three. I was going to rehab 3 times a day. It was the most painful stuff I'd ever been, because they're digging in my armpit trying to get scar tissue out and stuff like that. I mean, it was hell for those 10 months that I had to come. But I tried to get back to play, and I missed the first half of '87. They had to put me on IR because it just wasn't ready. But I ended up playing the last part of that season, and then one more year in Chicago. And then I got traded. So
Well, there's no doubt you played through injuries most players wouldn't today. So how much of that was toughness versus obligation, and how much of it do you question now?
well, I always said if I can walk on the field, I'm going to play. I don't care what's hurting. That's
Yeah.
why they have those painkillers and the shots. And I played with my right throwing hand was broken in 1984 before I hurt my kidney. I played 6 games with a broken right hand. They'd shoot it every game, and they'd always hit a nerve. So I'd be numb to my elbow, and I couldn't feel the ball. I don't know how I completed any passes. And not a whole lot of spirals back then. I couldn't feel the ball. And even the reporters, "How come you can't throw over a spiral?" I said, "Well, I can't feel the ball." "Why not?" "Because my hand's broke." You know, they wouldn't allow you to tell people that you were hurt. It was just crazy back then. You got to hide all your injuries. And, uh, no, but I didn't care if somehow I could walk out there, I'm going to play. And
Yeah.
that was my thing. I wanted to play.
I love it. And you were known for your toughness, that's for sure. So, I wanted to ask now, like, what are you focused on today? Like, what projects or passions are keeping you engaged now? Like, how do you decide where you spend your time and energy going forward, business wise, personally? Like, what are you doing now?
I've been in the cannabis industry the last 5 years, I believe. Kyle Turley, another ex NFL player, started this company. I got involved with him. Uh, that's been keeping us busy. Finally got rescheduled. Cannabis is now Schedule 3, which helps a lot. They had us at Schedule 1, which is ridiculous. They had us with cocaine and heroin, stuff like that. Whereas fentanyl is Schedule 2. Fentanyl has killed millions of people. Cannabis has never killed anybody, never will. And so, we all have a cannabinoid system in our bodies. We're supposed to be using this plant, not these. We don't have an opioid system or an alcohol system, but you do have a cannabinoid system. So that takes up a lot of time. I've got 7 grandkids too around the country, so that great to see them when I can, as often as I can. But yeah, other than that, just been rehabbing this foot, man, for the last 4 years, just trying to be able to walk again, and still doing a lot of my different charity events with my military guys, and um, yeah, just enjoying life, man. Just trying to stay breathing.
Playing golf, obviously.
Oh yeah,
Playing golf
I get to play
barefoot.
a lot of golf. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, that was fun seeing you and talking about that and your stories about drinking the 2 beers per hole. That was fun to hear.
Oh, that was back in the day. Yeah, I've cut that way back.
Yeah.
Well, that's how I was taught to play. The guy who taught me how to play, if 2 feet hit the ground out of the cart, as you're getting out of your cart, and if both feet hit the ground without your beer in your hand, that was a 2-shot penalty. So that's why I'm always carrying my beer on the course. I was just ingrained in that. I didn't need any extra 2 shots with the way I played. So,
Yeah.
but then that was the rules. You had to drink a beer hole.
Yeah.
You couldn't tee off on the next hole till that beer was done. And par fives, you had to drink 2. So it evened out with the par threes, quick one on the par 3, 2 on the par fives. Yeah, the back 9 was kind of fun.
No kidding, dude. No kidding. Especially some of those courses in Cabo with the bars every 3 holes.
Oh yeah, they got those secret tequila stashes every 3 or 4 holes, man.
I think
That's
it's
great.
Cardinal on the is it 16 or 17? They got the shots are like this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those are a lot of fun.
That's a signature down there in Mexico. You got a lot of those tequila stations.
Yeah, I love that. Final 2 questions. What does winning mean to you now? When you think about the term or the phrase winning, what does that mean to you now?
Waking up every day, I'm winning now.
Yeah.
That's just getting through another day, man. That's all I look forward to. Just waking up and say, all right, we got another day on this earth. Let's have some fun. Hopefully, I've got good genes. My folks are both 80, and they'll be 90 in April. They're both still with us, and I was just there seeing them this weekend. They're struggling a little bit with their hearts and stuff, but they're still hanging in there. So, every day is a blessing. So I look forward to waking up every day and whatever I got to do. If I don't have to do anything, great. If I got to go do something, great too.
Amazing. I love that. That's a fantastic take. Live in the moment. And every day on earth we need to be thankful. Oh, Jim, an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for taking the time to sit down with us today, reflect and share your stories, behind such a legendary career.
That was great, man. I appreciate you having me. I look forward to seeing you back down there in Mexico.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. And of course, anything we can do to support you in the meantime, we'll do that for sure. But I really appreciate your time today, man. This was bucket list for me. I mean, I think I told you, I mean, you got a lot of people, I'm sure that fan out, talking to you, but like I said, my first NFL jersey was a Jim McMahon jersey. Stuck with me forever.
I appreciate that.
Serendipitous, man. So anyways, take the rest of the day off, Jim. Really appreciate your time and energy today.
All right, brother. Thanks.
All right, bro.
Appreciate
Thanks
it
so much. Peace.
Have a good one.
You too.